Islam,
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 Islam.
Islam. I'd like to welcome you to the Moorish Sense Channel. I'm your host, Sheikh Jordan Hill, Randy Jordan Hill, under the Moorish Sense of America, Temple number 13, Baltimore, Maryland. Tonight we have a special segment. Our segment tonight will be on President Lincoln. We'll be looking at and addressing various different myths, misconceptions, and misinterpretations. But before we do, always, we want to start this program off with the Moorish prayer. And we also have with us Chief T on today, as well as our co-host, the host and co-host of the Moorish Sense Channel, who's been on a brief vacation for a little while. That's Sheikh Velaz Bay.
Islamism.
Before we get started, Sheikh T.R. Johnson Bay, would you mind leading us off the Moorish prayer?
Yes, sir. Islam,
Islam.
Islam,
Islam.
Islam. Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah,
the Father of love,
Allah,
truth,
True.
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
And
justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah,
my guide,
my God,
and my salvation.
and
and
my
By night
by night
and by day,
and
and
by
through his holy prophet,
through
His holy prayer.
Drew Ali.
your
Amen.
Amen.
The wife says she's tuned in. Not sure.
Islam.
Oh, it's y'all hear like a echo maybe?
Yes, it was an echo. Little echo. All right, I think we have it now. So again, we like to rise. And first our rise give praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give honor to our beloved Prophet. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, January 8th, 1886. I also want to extend honor to the Prophet's forerunner, Brother Marcus Mosiah and Williams Garvey. I want to extend honor to all past and present leaders of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I also want to extend honors to our Supreme Grand Sheikh Pray the Ill, Supreme Grand Sheikh is Pray the Ill, our National Grand Sheikh is T. Jones Bay, as well as all of our national officials likewise, as well as all Moorish American Muslims, those who are keeping the doors of the Moorish Science Temple of America open, teaching the truth to our people that they're not Negroes, colored folks, black people, Ethiopians, and also teaching them of their higher self and their lower self. I want to extend a special honor to my wife, Deputy Sheikh Jordan Hill, my son and daughter, Prince and Princess Jordan Hill. I want to extend honors to our viewers, our visitors, those who will be looking in, tuning in for the live as well as the playback. As we often say, ask your questions. This segment is going to be a pretty good segment, but before I do get into the gist of this segment, I'm going to turn it over to Sheikh Johnson Bay and then Sheikh Velaz Bay likewise.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Islamism.
Islamism. All praise is due to Allah, honor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali for all the wonderful works he's brought unto us. I want to thank Sheikh Jordan Hill, Sheikh Lions Bay for having me on this wonderful platforms. Beautiful job y'all doing. Give honor to since we on air and we talk about Lincoln. I want to give honor to Sheikh Clarence Pray the Ill, his wife, Mother Betty Pray the Ill, for teaching me all that they have taught me. Sheikh and Seabreeze Bay for teaching me all that she has taught me.
That's
And I
right.
want to give a special honor actually to Brother Eric Munchin Bay. Hint to the wise is sufficient when it comes to Lincoln. Praise Allah for the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So, Sheikh joined the ill. Am I just giving a brief introduction, or you want me to
You can get into the intro.
get to
You can get
the
into the
intro?
intro.
So praise Allah.
But we got Sheikh Velaz Bay. Sheikh Velaz Bay.
Hold on, I'm still getting feedback.
Yeah.
What now? What happened?
No, I said, did you want to get into it too? The rise and give honors to the Prophet.
Oh yeah. Praise Allah. I
Praise
I rise, give praise to Allah, giving honor to the Prophet, giving honor to all true and divine prophets. I give honor to my wife and my 8 children, my beautiful wife and my 8 children. I like to give honor to all the wonderful works that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has brought unto us, and give honor to uh, just you brothers actually too, right? One, um, both of you came in the temple a little after I did, right? So, Sheikh Jonah Ill, you've been doing a wonderful job with the author series. I've been just sitting back, just soaking it in, right? So that's a blessing. And uh, uh, Sheikh Tr, right? Johnson Bay, you kind of pick up where I left off at, right, in history and law. So that's a blessing, and we'll get into that a little later. And I'm just praise
Praise
Allah
Allah.
for being here and us being able to share what it is that we have learned, right? So
That's right.
praise Allah.
Praise Allah. So
So
Sheikh
Sheikh
Johnson,
Johnson,
turn it
turn
over
it
to
over to
you,
you,
and then
and
we'll
then
get
we'll get
into
into
those
those
different
different.
aspects too.
Islam, praise Allah, and thank you. Yes, Sheikh Valans Bey, I want to thank you publicly, for teaching me how to use it, for everything that you've done for me.
Praise Allah.
I'll be here all night. And give a special honor to Sheikh Charles Brown Hill when it comes to this brother Lincoln and
That's
the
right.
esoteric lessons that we learned about him. All right. So first thing I want to demonstrate is Mo. Do you have that picture? You have that
Yes.
picture of Lincoln wrapping the turban. Go ahead, put the picture up.
All right.
Right.
Most there's a documentary that came out on Netflix called Passing. If anybody has seen it, and if you look at me, you can see I'm light skinned, and I have family. I got family that 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 pass. You know what I mean for Europe to be Europeans, and there I personally know a lot of people more than what I realized at first that also demonstrate this lesson of being passing. In other words, what that means is you have an Asiatic, which is which we know so-called black person,
Mm-hmm.
Asiatic that is basically so. I'm gonna speak plainly. Basically, the complexion of their skin is so light that they can pass for somebody of European descent, right? And so there's a lot of those people that my family, me personally, I'm speaking from personal, my family. These are my family members, Mo,
Mm-hmm.
that are in and specifically in government that have government jobs. They may work for the judiciary, they may work for the legislative aspect of government in legislature, meaning right up the street in Washington D.C. At the Capitol building, where Congress meets, or they may be in the executive branch of government. And the people who go to work every day, they clock in 9 to 5. They don't know that they Asiatic. Their coworkers don't know. But the people themselves, they know, and of course I know because it's my family. And it dawned on me very recently. I was at a, I'm a, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm a switch the story up a little bit just to preserve the integrity and the discretion of my family members. But nevertheless, I was at a family reunion recently, and my brother says, my blood brother, he says, yeah, when we were coming up, the police would mess with us, police brutality, because being Asiatic, growing up in that time, which was a while ago, some years ago, doing segregation, Jim Crowism and whatnot, or segregation rather. The police would beat us up because coming up as Asiatic, it was hard for us. And so I look at my brother, I'm like, bro, you're not Asiatic. My family is is uh the epitome of the American melting pot, if you will. All right. So, but I look at my brother and I'm like, you not an Asiatic, and it dawned on me, oh my goodness, yes he is, right? And even I was sitting there and I had to realize myself, he knows he's an Asiatic, and the police officers at that particular time, they certainly knew that he was an Asiatic, but everybody else that he went to work with, that he may have worked in various government offices or agencies with, they had no idea. Even me, growing up, I remember asking my mother, y'all know my mother, Mother Johnson Bay,
Mm-hmm.
Roscoe's mother. A lot of times I would ask, I recall vividly asking my mom, why did my brother marry somebody outside of his race? And she had to explain to me that Asiatics, we come in all different varying shades, from the lightest of the light to the darkest of the dark. We know we Asiatic, and we have, and oh, they know they're Asiatic, right? We know we Asiatic. The people who they work with, they don't know. Again, if you've seen that documentary on or that movie on Netflix called Passing, you have a good idea of what I'm hinting at. All right, now, but these people that I know that are in government in politics right now, they are causing laws to be written and passed that benefit us as Asiatics. I mean, I know them personally. I know their families, and their families know my families because we are family. I'm telling you, I realized this recently. So a lot of the brothers in the temple, the sisters in the temple at the Moorish Sense of America know of the things that I may have said behind closed in our meetings and whatnot. And what I'm telling you is, what I've come to the realization recently. I've seen that it's because we are family, and it was light bulb went off in my head when it pertains to this brother you got on the screen, Abraham Lincoln.
That's right.
There's a saying, the Nation of Islam, you hear them say it all the time. They say you can get the recessive gene from the dominant gene, but you cannot get the dominant gene from the recessive gene. So when you see people in specifically in politics, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you see people specifically in politics that have Asiatic features, hair. Sheikh Michael Johnson Bay used to always say, you can always tell by the nose. Eyes that are indicative of dominant genes, or in other words, Asiatic bloodline, then you know that that person, in all actuality, is Asiatic. Sometimes they call, in some circles, they call it what, the one drop rule.
Hmm.
Key and Peele did a skit about Obama when he was like, "Good afternoon, my octoroon," right? But what I'm telling you is, I'm telling you, I bear witness, and I'm also telling you, in order to preserve the integrity and discretion of those that I know personally that are helping to run the government right now, and my family, I'm just not how they say name dropping, if you will. But know for sure, Abraham Lincoln is as a prime example, is probably, well, I'm not gonna say the greatest example, but he is a great example of how our people can be in position and are in position to benefit our goal, the goal of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is to remove Negro, Black, and Colored off of official documents.
That's right.
So now we get to the point of how we can do that. Before I get to that real quick, we see this is a picture of Abraham Lincoln that's drawn that depicts him as who he is, which is an Asiatic
Give me one
brother.
second. Just a click noise. I don't know what that clicking noise is. Is it
That's probably me.
okay? All right,
I'm
go
over
ahead.
here
Go ahead.
because I want to. I apologize because I got something. I got a picture to go along with that, but I apologize that I'm
It's all,
clicking.
all is
That's
well. My
probably me.
apologies, Sheik Johnson,
No,
Bey.
you good. You good. Let me
Sheik,
turn
Sheik,
my
go ahead.
mic.
Islam. So
It's
this picture is basically exposing the truth about who Abraham Lincoln, or this drawing is basically exposing the truth about Abraham Lincoln's race, saying that he's an Asiatic. I think they have it. I think they call him a Negro on
we
here.
do.
Mr. Lincoln is seen to be a so-called, I'm saying so-called Negro when the veil is lifted. Somebody knows something about something. That is what I'm saying. Now, a lot of us, because I know a lot of the listeners are in the temple or are familiar with more science or are familiar with the conscious community and the things that we like to talk about. We know that Abraham Lincoln's mother was a Melungeon. All right. And so we know that Abraham Lincoln was an Asiatic. I'm saying, I'm letting you know that he was somebody that was in position, that was put in position, and that was commissioned by Allah to be in position to get us out of slavery. So the reason why I thank you for having this picture, number one, and the reason why I asked you to put the picture up is because it demonstrates that Abraham Lincoln is a Asiatic, just like you and I,
That's
just
right.
like the darkest of the dark, Asiatic to the lightest of the light. All right, and it demonstrates that there are so many of those people in politics. All you have to do is look at the eyes, the nose, the hair, and and it will reveal that we actually have people in position right now. This goes to the aims of and object of the Moorish Science Temple of America because of what our political ambitions are to get people to continue to get, because we're doing an excellent job to continue to get people in the judicial branch, legislative branch, executive branches of government, so that we can have our interests represented in policy making on what they call politics. All right. And so if there are any comments or questions about that, we can get into it. But in so many words, I'm saying the brother was passing. People thought he was a European. People thought Abraham Lincoln's race was European. They thought he was a so-called white man.
Yeah, we
I
have
made to
another
tell you
image
nothing, Mr.
picture.
Say that again.
So we have another image as well, and I'm just going to put it up. Go ahead, continue.
Praise out. All right, now. And Lincoln also had Asiatic advisors in his at the White House, people that would advise him that were Asiatics on his policies and whatnot. So I wanna first thing I want to talk about, since we got that squared away. Remember, you can get the recessive gene from the dominant gene, but you can't get the dominant gene from the recessive gene. So the first myth to dispel about Lincoln is what his actual race was. All you gotta do is look at the man. And if any of you have family members, personal family members, that may be what they call mixed, right? Or if any of you who are listening right now live this life, you know what I'm talking about. You know the discrimination that you face from your own kind, who try to say that you're not Asiatic. You know, and from Europeans who try to say that you're not them either. You know, I know you know. This is the people I went to school with. This is how I grew up, Mo. I'm speaking from experience. This is how I grew up in the world. It just so happened that I was able to find myself in the temple, and all praise is due to Allah. All right. There is a belief out there that Lincoln only freed the slaves. With that said, I want to segue into Lincoln freeing the slaves. There's a belief out there that Lincoln only freed the slaves, which were his own people, in order to win the Civil War. And that belief became real popular because of a letter some correspondence that he had with a man by the name of Horace Greeley, which is who I believe Sheikh Amenuel talked about him when you had him on, by a man by the name of Horace Greeley. Horace Greeley, he's the equivalent of like today we would say, I like to say a YouTube sensation, or somebody, a news anchor that's very popular in the news, somebody that you would turn on the TV or read if you happen to be a news article read or person, somebody that you would read about world news from. So one of the oh wow, yeah, see that's what I'm talking about. You can tell by the nose. People, they can see that picture, right? You
Yes,
can tell by the nose. If or I do you one better. If any of you have family members that may be, and I know you do, that may be light olive, as we say, light skin, as the people may say. Just think about how they look, and look at this picture of President Lincoln, or look at any actual photograph of the man, and you'll see. I know, like I said again, those of you on here who have experienced prejudice from Asiatics because you may not fit in, so to speak, because you may be too light skinned. Again, these people are my family, right? One of them just left my house a few minutes ago, and I know because this is how we grew up, Mo. Any of you that actually know, I know it's not hard to explain to you about. It's not as difficult to get you to understand about this thing about having Asiatics in positions in the government that the people may just not, their coworkers may not know, but that it works to our benefit. And the the what that the point of what that even means, or what does that mean for us, or what's the benefit of us even knowing that, is simply to know that we have people in position that are working on our behalf, and we have always had people in position that are working on our behalf. President Abraham Lincoln being one of them.
That's right.
That's the point. Because the myth that one of the things I want to address, I had no idea, I didn't know that there are a lot of our people, Asiatics, the so-called black people, so-called Negroes, that think that Abraham Lincoln had slaves. They think he had slaves, which is crazy.
Ridiculous.
But I believe I know why that is. And it had something to do with his wife's father, who left slaves to her in his will, basically. They think he had slaves, and they think that he was like a racist European Caucasian. And then the third one is they think that he only freed the slaves to win the war. Like, oh my God, we losing. Let me free all these strong people because they got muscles since they've been working in the field, so that we can win the Civil War. But that ain't it. And that's what I'm here to demonstrate today, to dispel that myth. I want the people to know, whoever's listening, whoever has the courage to listen, and it's really as simple as a few documents. All you got to do is read the brother's words to know. Number one, Lincoln has always been anti-slavery, and the reason why the Civil War started, the reason why not started, but the reason why the Civil War jumped off like that, is because he became president.
That's right.
And the Democratic Party, yes, the Democratic Party, knew that Lincoln's goal since when he was a lawyer, before he ran for senator, even though he didn't make Senate. Before he ran for senator, when he was a lawyer, they knew that he was anti-slavery then, because he looked up to a man by the name of Henry Clay. Henry Clay and another brother whose name I can't recall at this particular point in time, but Henry Clay and another brother was the founder of what at that time was known as the Whig Party,
The wig part.
which later became the Republican Party, and they were anti. Henry Clay was basically like a non-violent John Brown. And if you know anything about John Brown and abolitionists, they called John Brown. They said that man was crazy
That's right.
because he was anti-slavery. He was Mo. I'm gonna speak plainly, Mo. He was ready to. Well, I'm gonna hold my tongue, but he was ready to do some damage, like Harriet Tubman. In other words, I'll put it like that, or Nat Turner, right? Henry and Lincoln was a member of Henry Clay's Whig Party, and he said, oftentimes, one of the things we're gonna read today, if we're gonna get to it, he oftentimes said, matter of fact, he said literally, hey man, you and I, he was talking to somebody right about the 13th Amendment. He was like, hey man, you and I, we were old Whigs together, of that great statesman Henry Clay. He was like, matter of fact, Henry Clay was anti-slavery, and there hasn't been one opinion about slavery that I got that I didn't get from Henry Clay. I'm saying all this to say that it is so much, everything that came out the man's mouth was about freeing his people, his brothers and his sisters, Asiatic people of Moorish descent. And there is surprisingly a phenomenal amount of evidence in black and white of us being Moors here in America. I suppose that it was just because at the time of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when he left the scene, a lot of that information went, well, at the time of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when he left the scene, and I'm thinking maybe now in these modern days, it just so happens that we are talking about it again. It's amazing that a lot of people are like, y'all can't prove y'all Moors, and that's crazy. That's crazy. But you know, the internet is a amazing, mysterious weapon of mass destruction that got people believing some crazy things. But you and Sheik Valens have put out a
Especially,
put
yeah.
out a lot of information about Moors in America. Man, listen, praise Allah. That maybe that's a segment for another time. But all right, so one of the things first thing I wanna look at is there's a letter, and feel free to cut me off and intercede whenever, wherever. The first thing I want to address is the letter between him and Horace Greeley. If you have the Great Conspiracy, you can. If not, all of it, you can just Google it and it'll pop up on Google. It's just that, you know, a lot of times viewers, when they see stuff from a book, from a textbook, they tend to be more inclined to receive its authenticity,
Yes.
to be motivated at its authenticity. All right. So this is a book called The Great Conspiracy. It was published in 1886 by John Logan, who was I think he was a general. Well, he was a soldier in the Civil War. All right, and he had plenty of correspondence with Lincoln, meaning he was an eyewitness. Right, he was in the war, and he wrote this book called The Great Conspiracy. If you read, it's a thick book. Here's one of my copies.
Yeah, mine's is on its own book.
I was blessed to have been received a copy. Most of the records pertaining to history and law I have, school of law and history I have is signed. I get them signed by Sheila Seabreeze Bay. For the future. When I get old, I want to look back and say how you like me now. But praise the Lord. And a lot of the instruction, my learning gets furthered by Sheik Prather Ill and Sheik Charles Brownell. So this is the book. It's thick, right, like this. But if you read it, you'll find out that the book is actually called The Great Conspiracy of Slavery. All right. Okay. Well, if you will, Sheik Jordan Ill,
Yes,
I
sir.
want to talk about why our people specifically. I'm talking about members of fraternities, fraternities and fraternities and sororities.
That's right.
Members of the NAACP. What else are we? Black Panther Party, Nation of Islam.
That's right.
And truth. Truth gives us the benefit of not having to argue. All right, I'll say that. And our people, the congressional caucus, right? Those in legislative, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, all our people that are in those circles, right? Believe in, which I did not know, but a lot of our people, in my conversations that I've had, think that Abraham Lincoln, freed the slaves only when the Civil War. The reason why they think that is because this letter that's on page. Let me pull up the page number. You're gonna type into the PDF box, right? It's a letter that he wrote to Horace Greeley, which is what they taught us in school. Here we go.
Islam. My
Yes, sir.
wife said it's echo. Still.
Let me see. Can you hear me now?
Let me see if I can do
I
something.
put my mic on mute while it's
Yeah,
talking because it might be reverb coming from my end. I'm not sure.
can you hear the reverb now? Chicas Velasquez, is it a reverb now? Chica Velasquez, can you hear me? Chica
Yeah, I
Johnson,
can hear you. I think it sounds a lot better.
it sounds clear. Okay. I'll mute while Chic TR is speaking.
Okay, I had mine muted. It might be me.
And question, again, for everybody who's in the chat, if you have any questions at all as Sheik TR Johnson Bay is presenting, just put your questions in the chat. Sheik TR, I'm going to just use I'll share a few comments. So my wife, Deputy Sheik's Jornell, said it's a book called Passing by Neela Lawson. They turned into a movie. I think that's what you were mentioning. And then also Sheikh Haru Reniciel said former Senator of Georgia Bob Barr is a great example, a classic example of someone passing. Is European. He was an Asiatic. And then we have Brother Derek Massenberg. He said Lincoln signed off on the 13th Amendment with 20 sections, which enforces the Emancipation Proclamations. And then also when we showed the picture of Lincoln, the second picture, um, W. Sheikers Jr. will say his hair, he has so-called coarse hair, and I can see it. And then Sheikers Velazquez said it's long, but everybody said it's clear now. So I'm a mute, and you just let me know the page, and I'll come back on. All right, praise the Lord.
Praise a lot. Type in that PDF box 505. All right. And in the Great Conspiracy, this is page 33. If you got the PDF, it's 505. Sometimes page numbers is a little off. All right. So why do our people think that Lincoln only freed the slaves to win the war? Scroll down a little bit. Reason why they think that is because of this statement that they taught us in school. I know because I remember them teaching it to us. Scroll down some more. I think it's on the next page. Let's see. There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm about to say the union.
All right. First of all, let me say this before we read that. I know y'all see it on the screen, but let me put this in your ear while we reading that. When President Lincoln says the Union, this is a mental problem that we have as a people. When President Lincoln says the Union, he's saying the country. He also says you'll find in his compensated Emancipation Proclamation, which is also known as his second annual message to Congress, the one that the presidents give. Well, at that time it was in December. I think it's still December now. I think it's the first week in December and whatever. His second annual message of Congress in 1862. He says, a nation consists of its land. Well, he says his territory, its peoples, and its laws, meaning the land, the people, and the law. That's the nation. That's the union. So when he says, if I want to save the union, he says, I want to save the land, I want to save the people, those who are free and those who are bound. Those are the people. And I want to save the laws, meaning the Constitution. Because later, if we get to it, the when Lincoln ran for presidency, his opponent at that time was a man by the name of Davis, Jefferson A. Davis. All right. I mean, Davis, Douglas, Lincoln Douglas Bates, Jefferson A. Douglas. I said Davis. I don't know where I got that from. All right. The Lincoln was a Republican, anti-slavery. Douglas was a Democrat, pro-slavery. The Republicans had a convention where they adopted what they called the Republican platform, their policy, meaning what they're going to tell the world at all the signs that they put up, at all the ads and the commercials that they put on TV. I know it wasn't TV, but I like to modernize it to make it understandable. That they said that we anti-slavery, and Douglas and his people said, well, we pro-slavery. The Republicans said that those Democrats, this is part of their platform. It was Article 7. You got to look at Article 7, 8, and 9. I got it. It's in this book, same book, Great Conspiracy. If we get to it, we can read it. If not, praise Allah. It's there, ask a question, drop it in chat. I don't know. Praise Allah. But it's articles, it's between 7, 8, 9, and 10. The Republican platform, they said, man, I'm paraphrasing it. They said, man, those Democrats, they trying to make pretend that the Constitution allows for slavery in any of the new states. That's crazy. This is the Republican platform. That's crazy. They are misinterpreting the Constitution, and they are trying to change the Constitution, and that is bad, evil, and it's a conspiracy. That was the Republican platform, right? So I say that because when Lincoln says, "If I could save the Union," he's talking about the land, the people, those that are bound and those that are free, and the laws, which is the Constitution. Got it? The reason why our people think that Lincoln only freed the slaves to win the war is because of this statement that they were taught right here. And it says, if this is Lincoln responding to Horace Greeley. Horace Greeley asked President Lincoln a question. He said, hey man, Lincoln, it's on live TV, national TV. We interrupt your television program for this live announcement. Everybody was knew what was going on. Everybody was reading this in the paper, right? Horace Greeley said to Lincoln in the New York Tribune, "Hey, Mr. Lincoln, I understand that you seem to be pursuing trying to free the slaves so that you could win the Civil War. I'm putting you on blast." President Lincoln responded in the beginning of this letter. We can read it after we read this, right? In the beginning of this letter, he said, "Look here, fool. I ain't finna play around with you like this on TV like that. I talk to you later. Everybody over here already know how I get down." Right? This is how Lincoln talking to him in this first paragraph of this letter. Reason why we don't know that is because we don't read the whole letter. They only taught us this one statement, which says, let's read. It says, if I could save the Union, this is Lincoln talking to Greeley, responding to Greeley about the slavery thing. This is what they taught us in school. They taught us in school. Lincoln said, if I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. That's it. That's all they taught. That's what they taught us about Lincoln. I know because I was there when they was teaching it to me at Gwen Park Middle School, Gwen Park High School, and Baden Elementary. That's where I went to school at, in Oxon Hill. And Morgan State. That's people, like when you get into a conversation with our people, and you say, ask them, try it. I've asked them, I've had these conversations. And they respond with, no, I didn't know that. And then it dawned on me that a lot of our people don't know simply because they just don't know, that's all. Because they ain't been to the Moorish Sense Channel of America now. But they say, you ask them, why, you know, they say, oh, I don't like Lincoln. You know, he was a racist and he only freed us just so he can win a war. That's like the position of our people. And you ask them, well, why you say that? And they say, well, you know, he said, if I could save the Union and free the slaves, I'd do it. So the misunderstanding is that, number one, when we hear that word Union, we as a people, Asiatics of America who are of Moorish descent, or those of us, the unconscious Asiatics in the wilderness of North America, if you will, we unfortunately, part of the mental illness of the Negro problem is that we do not, when we hear that word Union, we do not identify ourselves with that word. But the Union means country. And the man said in his second annual message to Congress, his words confirm what he mean when he say what he say. Because remember, all his co-workers at the White House and at the Capitol building up the street going to work every day thinking that he's a European. He's not. He's an Asiatic. Our people, unfortunately, we don't think that we have a relation to that word union. But that just means country. He's saying if I could say the country, I'd do it this way. If I could say the country that way, I'd do it that way. My paramount objective is to save the country. And if we read the letter, we see that this is what he's saying. My paramount objective is to save the land, north as well as south, north of that Mason-Dixon line, as well as south of that Mason-Dixon line. Northern states as well as southern states and border states. Save the land, save the people in that land. Now, how do you know? Because another thing people say is, oh, well, you know, when they say people, they don't mean us. That's another mental problem that we have. One of the tricks that the Europe, and I'm going to tell you why that ain't so. But one of the mental, I'm breaking up.
No, I said I'm glad you brought that point up.
Oh, praise Allah. One of, you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Okay, praise it. One of the things that people say is one of the mental problems that we have is that European psychology, European trick is they got us adopting the psychology that we are not people. Crazy. Now, when you look at Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st, 1863. And the document that he referenced in that proclamation, which is September the 22nd, 1862, which is the Emancipation Proclamation. That's another thing they don't teach us in school, but praise the Lord. He says people. He makes references to those bound men called slaves as people, persons. All right. And countless other references to where as though they simply are making reference to us as people. And the reason why our people say that is because they drawn from that 3/5 clause. But if you read that 3/5 particular aspect of the Constitution, you'll come to find out that it's a numbers game. They talking about numbers, and they're not saying that you are 3/5 of a person. Oh my God! Oh my! I know that's shocking to hear. But if you happen to be a lawyer, and you're listening, or you happen to be someone that's familiar with how like legal words work, read it and see for yourself that they're not saying you're 3/5 of a person. But that any questions on that, we can get into it. But praise the Lord. All right. Let's go up to the top. Let's go up to the top. And I'm pretty sure that document to the beginning of this letter, dear sir. Yes, I'm pretty sure that letter was that portion of the screen was on the screen long enough for those that wanted to read it, read it, and can see some stuff. But check this out. And this is just again, this just goes to us being clarified in the mind. Why do we think that Lincoln only freed the slaves to win the Civil War? Is because of this letter. This is the document. But this letter is a whole letter. So let's read it, please, so that we can see the genius of Lincoln. Right. This is a book. It's called Abraham Lincoln and the Structure of Reasoning, and this is another book. This is actually addressed to Sheikah Seabreeze Bay by the authors of this book. She let me hold it when we were in Gettysburg. But that book talks about how Lincoln studied geometry, the six, I think the 6 books of Euclid. But he did that in order to make his speeches more persuasive, because geometry deals with reasoning in those 7 liberal arts. Geometry deals with reasoning, like you put the square inside of the square hole, reasoning. And so he was very proficient at being able to be in a room full of people with differing opinions and cater to them all. All right. So that's how he became the anti-slavery president, and the reason why the Civil War jumped off like that. Which that information is in this great conspiracy as well. South Carolina was the ringleader of that, by the way. It wasn't Virginia. A lot of people say, because they get the misunderstanding, because the Ku Klux Klan, their capital, I mean, not the Ku Klux Klan, the Confederacy. Thank you. I always get them mixed up.
Richmond.
Right, their capital's in Richmond. That the ringleaders, South Carolina. But that gets into the politics of it all, which is I like, because I experienced a life-changing revelation that showed me what we're saying now. All right, Islam. Anything on that? Before we read, anything on that European psychology about the 3/5 thing and us not being people? That's a trick of the mind that they played on us, because we accepted that as what the Constitution meant by that. It's not what it meant. Go to those that know law; they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. Those of you that work in the judicial system, I know who you are, who just might be on here. You know what I'm saying. Those of you that's well studied, well versed in that particular arena of language, Sheikh Heru Renisiel, I personally know is one. It's not saying that you're 3/5 of a person. Just read it. Trust me. All right. If anybody, if Sheikh John or brother Melvin, if nobody has anything on that, I would like to read this letter. If so, just cut me off. All right. Again, this is demonstrating, clarifying what they taught us in school, that Lincoln only freed the slaves to win the war. They only read one line from this whole letter, and it's a whole letter. So let's read the whole letter.
Can you
Can
hear
you
me?
hear me? Yes, sir.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, just
yeah, just
that
that
we just
we
um
just um
a lot of
a
what
lot
we're
of
doing
what we're doing is
what we're reading is, I'm not going to say it's top heavy, but what winds up happening is all a person has to do is get a good like legal dictionary in a sense, and kind of just look up some of the definitions. And one of the things that I found was one of my best friends is an annotated code or annotated United States Constitution, and that goes into telling you about like what certain terms meant, and each line it tells you about what they meant by what they were saying. And a lot of attorneys, you can go to a law library if you now it's not necessary, so to speak, but if you want to understand a topic, that's what you can go to the library, or you can a law library, or you can find an annotated constitution, and it kind of gives you, it kind of blows out some things on 3/5 and so on and so forth, and like union and things of that nature. So that's all I had to say.
say. Yes, indeed. And to that point, you notice if the think about this, the Supreme Court has overturned so many things that they said were unconstitutional. So the question when you go to articulate and argue things in the arena of law, where mental warriors hang out, if it was unconstitutional today, that means whatever. Let's just say Supreme Court said cell phones was unconstitutional, for example. If Supreme Court came out tomorrow and said cell phones are unconstitutional, if they were unconstitutional today, that means they were probably unconstitutional last year. It's just that the person who maybe had was interested in articulating its unconstitutionality, who had the ability to do so, didn't make it to the Supreme Court at that particular time, or the Supreme Court didn't have those particular arguments for review before them in proper form, or they weren't in posture to consider those particular things. So, um, I would encourage all to bear in mind that a lot of the things that the Moorish Science Temple of America, its members, its advocates, its sympathizers are seeking to accomplish are already clearly cut. They just need someone in legislative capacity, judicial capacity, and executive capacity of government to properly articulate and convey those things in the proper form so that they are in the posture to be considered by somebody who could say that they are unconstitutional. Because we know that there's no such thing as Negro, black, and colored. However, at this particular point in time, being black is constitutionally correct, but it's unconstitutional, right? But until we get somebody in those, as we continue to be better citizens in this government, we will be able to demonstrate the light of the constitutional foundation that says being black is unconstitutional. So I encourage all to bear that in mind. That there's a lot of stuff going on that's right, but it ain't right, and the law itself has never changed. So, all right, praise the Lord. Now, this says this is Lincoln responding about slavery.
I want to just read something real brief,
Yes, sir.
just real quick. So, and
So, and
that's an
that's an
excellent
excellent
point.
point.
She
She
Johnson
Johnson
makes
makes
me
me
pause it.
pause. Oh,
That's
yes,
me.
sir.
That's me.
Sorry, I forgot.
Okay. So,
So,
she
she
can
can
stand
stand
alone
alone,
as she
as she
stated.
stated.
Who was they saying was 3/5? They weren't talking about us. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought it up, Sheikah's Lomax Bay. So this record right here that I have is called "The Formation of the Union." It's actually a congressional record. Um, It comes from the Library of Congress, and it was documented and created. Well, the copyright from the government printing office from Washington, 1927, right? In this document has the minutes of the framing of the Constitution, right? And when you look at the Constitution, not to take Sheik Johnson Bay off his point, but when you look at the Constitution, it says that the Constitution, you had two groups that were there. You had the adopters, excuse me, the framers and the adopters. We were the framers of the Constitution.
Hey, what's that record called again?
It's called the United States Formation of the Union, and it's classified as documents. Now, Sheik Johnson Bay, you and I, we used to go to not everyone's place. We used to go to the book thing. And we used to get books. Remember, we went there one time and got a book on Lincoln. Well,
Yes, sir.
I went to the book thing and I found this record just sitting in the corner, and I was like, I might as well take it. So I go in, I look inside the book, and it's various different minutes at that time in the 1700s, dealing with the late 1700s, dealing with or focusing on the question that Chigas Lomax Bay um, shared. And I'll make a copy and I'll bring it down to the temple at Bel Air Road if you like to see if we can sell Chigas Lomax Bay. That's right, 35 Moors and 20, 35 Moors and 20 Anglo Saxons, East 49 is the lesson, right? But I'm gonna read this right here. It's from Mr. Ellsworth in his highlight. It
Can you
says,
restate her question? I didn't hear.
who was they saying was 3/5? They weren't talking about us, right? So in the issue of poll tax, and it says the formation of the union, and this is Mr. Ellsworth, who was one of the adopters. It says in the case of poll tax, there will be no difficulty, but there will probably be none. There will probably be none. The sum allotted to a state may be levied without difficulty according to the plan used by the state in raising its own supply. Because at that time, you got to remember, and even the issue of what the Sheik Johnson Bay is mentioning in regards to the issue between Lincoln and those individuals who were opposed to him, right? You had the issue of states' rights versus federal rights or federal law. So it says the sum allotted to a state may be levied without difficulty according to the plan used by the state in raising its own supplies. On the question of the whole proposition as proportionate representation to a direct taxation of both, and I'm going to paraphrase, to the so called white and so-called black three-fifth inhabitants and requiring a census within 6 years and with every 10 years afterwards. In the states that were present at that time, you had Massachusetts, you had Connecticut, New Jersey, you had Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. You also had Virginia, you had North Carolina, South Carolina, and you also had Georgia. Now, out of those, Massachusetts was divided on it. Connecticut, they were in favor. New Jersey was against it. Pennsylvania was for it. Delaware was against it. Maryland was for it. VA was or Virginia was for it. North Carolina was for it. South Carolina was divided, and Georgia was for it. Right now, I say all that to say, when you talk about the 3/5 in this document, it clearly outlines the 3/5 does not solely describe the so-called Asiatic, but it's saying the 3/5 as it pertains to the taxation of both Europeans and Asiatics. That's what it's saying. Taxation and pertaining to Europeans and Asiatics. All right, and I'm off my soapbox. Back to you, Sheik Johnson Bay.
Praise the Lord. Since you brought it up, thank you, Mo. That's thank you. Also, it's just talking about numbers. It's like saying this. She joined the L gave me $20. I gave him 10 back. And so people start spreading the rumor. She joined the only gave the Mo $10. Like, no, he gave me 20, but I gave him 10 back. He gave me the whole 20. I just gave him 10 back. That's what I wanted to do. So it was a person, it was 50 people over there. I counted 50, but I only included 3/5 of all 50 of them in the count. So look, praise the Lord. As we continue to get people in the positions, I praise the Lord for the work that we are doing. Pardon me. I praise the Lord for the work of the Prophet Noble Ali being done in these days and times. And as that continues to get done, we'll be in a position to be able to explain those kind of things to people that's going to make the pen, demonstrate that the pen is mightier than the sword. And let me say, since I'm on that topic, I give honor to all of those who give honor to the Prophet Noble Ali. I'm bearing witness that your work is not in vain, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Those that are doing things, man, believe me when I tell you, it's beneficial to the whole country. So that, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Praise the Lord and thank you. Okay, all right. This is letter from President Lincoln to Horace Greeley. This is the whole letter that Lincoln wrote. This is the whole letter. This is the whole, I guess, speech, if you will, that led up to the statement, that small statement that they took out of this letter and gave to us in middle school, high school, and elementary school, and college, to try to make us think that Lincoln only freed the slaves to win the Civil War. I'm sorry, it's not true. Oh, I'm not sorry, but praise the Lord, it's not true. It says, "Dear Horace Greeley, dear sir, I have just read yours of the 19th instance. I don't know what that abbreviation is. I can't recall this point in time. Address to myself through the New York Tribune. Hey, Mo, I just got your letter. If there, this is what I like about it. This is my favorite part about this letter. He says, if there be in it any statements or assumptions of fact, look, he's saying, if there's anything in that letter that you said or that you assumed of fact, which I may know to be erroneous, that if you put something, if you said something or even assume something that I know is wrong, I ain't finna argue with you. Because Jay-Z said, a wise man never argues with fools. Because people from a distance can't tell who's who. He said it. All right. Lincoln said, I do not now and here controvert them. I ain't finna argue with you right here. You can come see me about it, though. If there be any. Why would Lincoln say that? But, we know why. If there be any inferences which I may believe to be falsely drawn, which you getting at, I can poke holes in your argument. What you getting at, bro, you drawing it from a lie, is what he's saying. I do not now and here argue against them. In other words, Lincoln saying to him, you made some statements and you assumed some stuff, and I think somebody may have told you some lies about who I am. If there be perceptible in it an impatient and dictatorial tone, Lincoln said, you real, you know what I'm saying, you real, you real forthcoming, you real like forward, you real loud. You real slick out the mouth, right? Lincoln said, you real slick out the mouth, brother Horace.
Right.
But you know what I'm gonna do? Cause you know how they say, they be like, what they be saying? They be like, you get a pass. Ain't that how they say? You get a pass. Ain't that how they be saying it?
I'm gonna give you a pass.
I'm gonna give you a pass. I'm gonna let that slide. I'm gonna let it slide, cause I know you excited. you know, he said if there be and we on TV right now, and you got all the views, so I know how to deal with it. He said I'll waive it, and meaning I'm gonna pardon it. I'm gonna look over it. I'm gonna let it slide. Give you a pass, in deference to an old friend whose heart I have always supposed to be right. Meaning, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, brother Horace, for saying that I'm tripping on this slavery thing, because I know you for a long time, and I thought I knew where you stood, you like mentally, like where your heart was. As to the policy I seem to be pursuing, as you say, I have not meant to leave anyone in doubt. Meaning, look, ain't nobody that know me confused about who I am or what it is I stand for. All you gotta do is check me out, cause a check don't lie. but it do bounce. If you ain't got that money in the bank, it's gonna bounce on you, but it don't lie. So just check me out, bro. It ain't even that complicated. I would save. He said, I'll leave it on down. I would save the union, which is again, people, is the country. I'll say the country, the people, whether they slaves or free people, bound or free, the land and the law, the Constitution. I would save it in the shortest way under the Constitution because that's my job. My job as the president is to save the union. Yeah. Just like an officer's job is to enforce the law. Just let that marinate. The sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the union will be, the union as it was. At the time of the Civil, he's saying the southern states was rebels, all right? And they wasn't respecting nothing that the government was saying. Meaning they didn't care nothing about the national authority. They were trying to they were rebelling against the national authority. I mean against the government. So much to the point that they was convincing a whole bunch of other states to do the same. Y'all think y'all gonna lead the United States? That's not how this works. If I was to let you do that, then the country gonna fall apart. The people, the land, the people, and the laws fall apart. It says the sooner the national authority can be restored, the nearer the union will be the union as it was. If there be those who would not save the union unless they could at the same time save slavery, I don't agree with him. He's saying if there's somebody out there who's saying, look, I'm not fitting to save the country unless I can save slavery. Now, of course, this is in other words, he's saying, I don't want the country to exist if slavery can't exist. He's saying, I don't agree with them folk. I don't agree with somebody who say, I don't want a United States if it's a United States without slavery. I don't agree with them people. But before we move on, right? He's his the the position that he is in as president at this time is the position of a president. All right.
That's right.
And he's saying that if you think you're going to save the country by holding on to slavery, you mixed up at the mind a little bit. And I don't agree with you. Then he makes another statement. If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time destroy slavery, I do not agree with them. Now, this part he's saying, if there's somebody out there in the country that say, I don't want no United States unless slavery is destroyed. In other words, it's a group of people. He's saying it's a group of people in the country that's saying destroy slavery or destroy the country. President Lincoln saying is, I don't agree with them neither. Don't get it twisted. But two things here. Remember, his perspective as a president, his genius with language and reasoning, his ability to speak at the same time to people with a difference in opinion and cater to the both of them, leading them all up to the common goal. Keeping that in mind, you also have to know that the reason he can say this comfortably, the reason he can say, if you think the only way to have a United States is to destroy slavery, you wrong. The reason why he can say that comfortably is because he has a policy when it comes to slavery. All right, and he has a policy when it comes to slave holders, slaves, slave states, and the people in those positions, called it's called compensated emancipation. But his policy deals with things taking place over time. In other words, he was smart enough to know, look, y'all, we can't get rid of all these slaves at once. Just like the prophet said, well, he is reported to have said, I can't wake all of you Moors up at once, because if you do, you're going to tear something up. The wisdom of Allah does not dictate that a prophet of Allah would do that. It is reported that the prophet said that. I can see the reasoning in it. But he was smart enough to say, we can't do this all at once because it's so many slave masters that would be angry at that. It basically will be another war. What we should do is do it over a course of generations. He says, my paramount, and remember, the union is, again, the land, the people, and the laws. Save the people, the land and the laws, yes, but save the people, whether they are free or whether they are bound at that particular time. My paramount objective is to save the union and not either to save or destroy slavery. Meaning, y'all didn't hire me, even though y'all know where I stand on slavery. Y'all didn't hire me to save slavery. Y'all hired me to do a job, which was to be the president of the United States. That's like me. I'm a Moorish American Muslim. Brother Roscoe, y'all know who I'm is. If I was to be governor, y'all would be smart enough not to be mad at me, right? If I didn't automatically say Negro, black, and colored is illegal. I'm the governor. I can do it. It's illegal. That's it. Kill me. It's over. Y'all would not. Y'all would be smart enough not to be mad at me, knowing where I stand as the governor. Join in. If you was to become senator, and they were interviewing you on TV. What do you think about you a Moorish American? What do you think about black people? We would be smart enough not to be mad at you if you said something to the effect of, well, I love my people and I desire them to be better citizens. We will be smart enough not to be mad at you for saying, why he ain't say that the prophet said according to all true divine records ain't no Negro, black, and colored. Come on, man.
You working, man.
Because we got to be smart, not dumb. That's why. Abraham Lincoln is Asiatic. He's anti-slavery. Everybody knew he's anti-slavery. All you gotta do is check out the official Republican platform, which is the reason why they catapulted him into office and the reason why the Civil War kicked off. When Abraham Lincoln became slavery, South Carolina called everybody into a meeting. It's like, hey y'all, this man gonna get rid of slavery. We need to lead a union and fight to keep him. They already knew what it was. But he was smart enough to tell Horace Greeley, look, man, if you said something stupid, foolish in this letter, I'm not addressing it here. I'm smart enough not to address it here on live TV. But I am smart enough to speak vaguely enough to make you know, y'all know where I stand on this slavery issue.
That is.
But my job as president is to save the land, the people, and the laws. I got a policy to deal with this demonstration. And I'm going to do it. And y'all just going to have to kill me for it. That's it. That's all. That's where the man stood. Okay, Brother Roscoe, I hear what you're saying. Prove it. Well, number one, you heard everything I said. You know I just proved it. But number two, all you got to do is check out the Republican platform, the official Republican platform that they, I mean, and it is resolved. Like this was their policy. Just check it out. When they nominated President Lincoln and his vice president at that time as their candidate for president, is between Articles 7, 8, 9, and 10. It really ain't even that deep. All right. And also when you get into the nitty gritty of it, you look at his compensated Emancipation Proclamation. Then you remember the first thing I said when I got on here. I know people personally. I'm not saying no names. I know you brothers and you sisters at Milton Avenue, 2900, ETC, know what I have said behind closed doors. I'm not Islam. That there's people in positions that's us that's making it do what it do. Let's keep reading. If I trust if I'm being confusing or not making what I'm saying clear, please call me out on it. Hey Mo, I don't understand nothing you saying, and I think you just blabbering.
That's
Let me know right here, right now, so we can break it down to its lowest term, like the Mo man say.
That's right.
It says, Keeps going. If I could save the Union without freeing any. This is the part they taught us in high school. The only part. They don't teach us nothing about anything I said other than this. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. Which, when you understand what it means to be a good lawyer, check this out. Any of you who've ever been in trouble who have had a lawyer, and for lack of a better term, I'm not going to use lack of a better term. Now I'm going to use lack of a better term. For lack of a better term, they got you. No, I ain't going to use lack of a better term. They advocated justice very, very favorably for you. You remember what it was like sitting there watching them do their thing. This is what is happening at this particular juncture in his letter. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slavery and the so-called colored race, I do because I believe it helps to save the Union. There's what our friend would affectionately say is the hit to this particular demonstration. And what I forbear, I do because I believe it helps save the Union. Whatever I do because I know it's going to help. And he got rid of slavery because he knew it was going to help. I shall do less whenever I shall believe what I'm doing hurts the cause. What cause? Come on now, you know the cause. And I shall do more whenever I believe doing more will help the cause. First of all, let me tell you, one of the things we taught in the Moorish Sense Channel of America, make no mistake about it, President Abraham Lincoln was commissioned by Allah to emancipate the slaves, period. And we learned about, if you want to learn more about that, join the Moorish Sense Channel of America or go to the Moorish Sense Channel of America and ask your questions. It's not something I will readily discuss here unless instructed to. I shall try to correct errors when shown to be errors, and I shall adopt new views so fast as they shall appear to be true views. I mean, if you got something good to say and it makes sense, I'm with it. I have here stated my purpose according to my view of official duty, meaning I'm right here, I'm talking to you as the president, not as Abraham. And I intend no modification of my oft expressed personal wish that all men everywhere could be free. I mean, right? It's right. If you can't see that, I recommend you study yourself again and again. So praise Allah. I hope somebody got something from that. There's a I mentioned something about I mentioned a lot about the Republican policy and the Republican platform at the time that President Lincoln was running for president, and they voted him as the Republican candidate for presidency. At the same time that was happening, this is in the Great Conspiracy. Oh, let me say this. All this stuff that I learned in the Moorish Sense Channel of America, praise the Lord for prophet reincarnated, and the names I've already mentioned, is
That's right. That's right.
this my mind was programmed in this way because of the conditioning, because of this book, man. Which is the resurrection, More Science of America, the truth, be yourself and not somebody else. And everything that I've said so far is in this record. It's just that, I didn't want to send them all a screenshot to put this on the screen. Praise the Lord, that's it. But the Mo Man, thank you, Brett. Thank you. There you go. But the Mo Man, we call Timothy Dingle Ill the Mo Man. The Mo Man tells you, Timothy Dingle hyphenated Newman Jurali in his new era time. The Mo Man tells us in his book, read The Great Conspiracy, Mo. So that's another reason why. All right. And real quick, somebody mentioned something about, well, if anybody has any questions about what was signed into law, ask your questions and we'll address it to the best of my ability. All right. president, the Republican and the Democrats. The Great Conspiracy tells you is the reason why it's such a revealing, a knowledgeable book is because it's written by somebody who was there, who fought in the war, and who saw the great, who was going to work with these people, and knew this, and knew the kind of people he was working with. Tells you that during the presidential candidacy of Stephen Douglas, Jefferson Douglas. I'm getting his name wrong, bro. Douglas. Middle initial.
Yeah,
Judge Douglas. Was it? What is it?
Douglas.
Judge Douglas.
Yeah,
Is it? Is Stephen? Oh, Stephen Douglas
definitely Steve.
was the Democratic representative. Abraham Lincoln was the. Let's go to that. Let's, if we can, unless you gonna tell me to do something else, sheet.
Great conspiracy.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna give you the page number.
All right, give me one second.
All right, and what's about to be on the screen are. I mean, you can Google it, Mo.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, because it's in the minutes, it's on the record. It's not even hard to find. But like I said earlier, a lot of times when we see something from a book, we're more inclined to be in awe of its authenticity. So, for the sake of rhetoric, I would like to draw from a book that was published in 1886 called The Great Conspiracy. All right. We're going to go to, yep, put in that PDF text box 129. All right. And in The Great Conspiracy, this is actually page 89. All right. But as you know, when you get a PDF, sometimes the pages are a little off. All right. And the title of this chapter is, I believe, The Crisis Approaching. If you have a new copy of The Great Conspiracy, it's The Crisis Approaching. You can get this same PDF that's on the screen from moorishhistorylaw.net, I believe is the website. Or, we drop it in the chat on the comments, Google it, download it. It's not even that hard to get. Okay. Let's go down to the bottom, I believe. Bottom of page 89. And I'll explain what's going on. Yeah, this is it. Okay, what's going on? It's voting time. And I'm a condense it. Judge Douglas, he was a judge, and Abraham Lincoln running for president. Democrat versus Republican, pro-slavery, anti-slavery. The Democrats are having what you're seeing on the screen right now from the Great Conspiracy. All right, the Democrats are having a national convention, a meeting. The Democrats are having a meeting where they are going to let the world know what their official platform is, what their policy is. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, what they did at that time, they will publish it in the paper, circulate it all around the country, and everybody will read it so they could be familiar with who they were voting for, what they were voting for. All right. Just like, running ads, putting up the posters and the signs that you see on the highway, vote for so and so, and you go to their website and you go to their event and you watch everything that they put on. It's that, basically that, except the version of it at that time. What's happening is there's a man by the name of I'm gonna draw your attention to the bottom. Scroll down a little bit. I want to draw your attention. You see those 3 asterisks at the bottom? Right. Go up a little bit. Actually, okay. Where it says the beginning of where it says the African slave trade. And now, right, you had it on screen already. It says, is that my mouse? No. I'm gonna read, right, and then I trust the viewers will.
African slave trade.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see it? Okay, good. All right, now let me explain what's going on. Democrats are coming together. They having a convention. They coming up with their policy of being pro-slavery, and they on some God bless America, we want the slaves. God bless slavery type of stuff. What's happening is some of them are like, oh nah, I ain't with that. I'm leaving the Democrats. All right. And so the people that's like, I'm leaving the Democrats because I ain't with that whole God bless slavery thing. I'm leaving Democrats. They're like, all right, get out. But we gonna be pro-slavery, and not only that, Stephen Douglas is. Stephen Douglas. That's his name, right? I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. Stephen Douglas is our man. Judge Douglas is our man. That's our pro-slavery man, and we gonna nominate him to run for president. All right. So it says this is a quote by somebody that's like, y'all crazy up in here. Y'all going wild over this slavery thing, Democrats. I'm out of here. This is what he's saying. He says, I will not sit in convention where the African slave trade, which is piracy by the laws of my country, the United States, because at this particular point in time, the slave trade with Africa was illegal. It says is approvingly advocated. Meaning, look, I ain't about to sit up here with y'all and y'all talking about stealing people. That's crazy. I'm out. That's what he's saying. All right. Is approvingly advocated, referring thereby to a speech that had been much applauded by the convention at Charleston, made by a Georgia delegate, Gaulden, in which that delegate has said. So he's saying, man, y'all going crazy over this slavery thing because of what because of what somebody said. What did somebody say? This is what the Democrats said. I would ask, this is quoting somebody that speaks for Democrats at that time. I would ask my friends of the South to come up in a proper spirit. Ask our northern friends to give us all our rights and take off the ruthless restrictions which cut off the supply of slaves from foreign lands. So he's saying, hey, we should ask the North, man, get out my face. Stop holding us down. Stop y'all got the police out here, y'all got the military out here. We out here trying to steal these people from Africa, and y'all talking about something that's illegal. Get out my face. That's what the Democrats are saying. I tell you, so they in here rah and cheering and like, comment, and subscribe. I tell you, fellow Democrats, that the African slave trader, this is about to blow your mind. This is the Democrats, that the African slave trader is the true Union man. And they cheering. They saying, I tell you that the slave trading of Virginia is more immoral, more unchristian in every possible point of view than the African slave trade, which goes to Africa and brings a heathen and worthless man here, makes him a useful man. Meaning they talking about slavery at home. That's cool. But taking these Moors, using their language, they call them Moors. Because remember at this time all Africans were esteemed Moors. I think Sheikh Amenuil, y'all talked about that here 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
That when they was going to Africa, they was taking Moors, man, Muslims. They used to say Muslims of the West, calling them heathens. Because remember the Crusades, Muslims versus Christians, right? They called them heathens because they weren't Christians. They say, all right, look, slavery at home, yeah, that's cool. But what we really should be doing, we should be taking these Moors from Africa, bringing them here, and making them Christians. That's what America's all about. That was the Democratic platform that they were wanted to be represented by their man in office being president. That's who they wanted to be president of the Union. That's who they wanted to have to be the chief executive officer of the military. I think chief commander in chief of the military. That's who they wanted to be able to say yay and nay to laws being proposed, to bills being proposed as laws. That's who they wanted to be the boss of the Senate, because the vice president is the boss, but the boss is the president. That's who they wanted, bro. All right. It says, makes him a useful man, Christianizes him, and sends him and his posterity down the stream of time to enjoy the blessings of civilization. Their point of view was that once you're a slave, you're always a slave, and your children are gonna be slaves, and that's the best you're gonna get as a citizen. That's the Democratic platform. This is what Lincoln was up against. I'll read a little bit more, and then we're gonna get to Lincoln's point, and then I think I suppose I will have made a sufficient point. It says, I represent, and it goes on. They like, comment, subscribing, cheering, applaud. They going crazy, cheers and laughter. I come from the congressional. It goes on to say, I come from the first congressional district of Georgia. I represent the African slave trade interest of that section. Woo! Like what? I am proud. These are the Democrats now. They ain't gone nowhere, but that's another story. I am proud of the position I occupy in that respect. I believe that the African slave trader is a true missionary and a true Christian. Are you prepared to go back to the first principles and take off your unconstitutional restrictions and leave this question to be settled by each state? Meaning, y'all really want each state to make their own decisions about slavery? He basically saying, y'all know if we left it up to the states to decide what they want to do about slavery, like Lincoln suggests, that slavery be gone in no time. That's what he's saying. Read the whole thing to get the full impact. How now do this, fellow citizens, and you will have peace in the country. Steal these people, trade these slaves, and we're gonna have peace. And then at the end, let me read this last part. I believe that by reopening the slave trade and giving us so-called Negroes to populate the territories, the equilibrium of the two sections will be maintained. He's saying, in order to save the Union, that ain't even what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, they are saying, uh, steal these people, make them Christians, and make their children slaves and Christians, make their children's children slaves and Christians, and that's what's going to bring us peace in America. That's the Democratic platform at that time. And then this section of the Great Conspiracy goes on. Scroll down to the next page. Goes on to and then it goes on to say, with all that in these few pages, it goes on to say, in the meantime, yeah, stop right there. It goes on to say, with all that said, they decided Judge Douglas is going to be the candidate that they nominate as as the Democratic candidate on this platform for everybody to vote for president, because he gonna represent. He gonna go and represent that. So then it goes on, and this is before the Civil War now. Okay, this goes to my point that the reason why the Civil War kicked off like it did is because Lincoln became president, and it's right. South Carolina was the ringleader. All right. It goes on to say, in the meantime, now that's going on at the Democratic meeting. In the meantime, at the Republic meeting, it says the complete opposite. And for the sake of time, you can scroll down. Scroll down till you see 7. These are their resolutions that they circulate around the world. 7. Oh, yeah, it's a little. Let me read it from here.
I saw some very well on the page. But we'll go back.
Okay.
Please remember that page that you
A moment ago.
in the meantime.
Okay, yes, sir.
Remember that page. Not tonight, bro. But
Hold on, shit, you get reverb. Sheik Johnson, you got muted.
it was. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it was something very interesting in parentheses. Um, but we don't have to address that right now. I just was when you were reading it, I saw it, and I said that after they said, I think it was something about the Constitution, and then in parentheses it gave a term, and I find that to be very interesting. So yeah,
Facts.
we'll address it later at a later date.
All right, I'll wrap it up with this. Um, the Republican platform seven, the seventh resolution says that the new dogma that the Constitution, that's the part that's kind of blurry. I'm just reading from the book. That the new dogma that the Constitution of its own force carries slavery into any or all of the territories of the United States is a dangerous political heresy. Meaning, the Democrats then came up with this new thing, trying to say that the Constitution mean you can carry slavery everywhere. Uh, yep, is dangerous, is new, and contradicts the Constitution itself because it says is at variance with the explicit provisions of that instrument, the Constitution itself. And then it goes on and says a bunch of other things that basically in those resolutions that basically say uh, slavery is wrong and we're gonna get rid of it. And with that said, Lincoln is our guy. And Lincoln went on to win. Because he won, South Carolina had a meeting and said we need to leave the Union and fight to death to keep our slaves. Civil War jumped off. Lincoln was like, I don't respect nobody named Confederates, but y'all are the rebellion. At that time, it was called the Great War of the Rebellion. It wasn't called the Civil War until it was well and over with. Um, and so these, that just goes, that's one of the things that demonstrates that Lincoln didn't free the slaves just to win the war. He was somebody, it goes back to my first point about passing, and how we are taught in the Moorish Sense Channel of America that Lincoln was commissioned by Allah. Join the Moorish Sense Channel of America or go to the Moorish Sense Channel of America and ask your questions if you want to know more about that. All right. Lincoln was commissioned by Allah to emancipate the slaves, his own people, Asiatic. He was somebody that was placed in position by Allah himself and advised by others to, they was like, hey man, you the one, you can do it. These people think you one of them. Are you willing to do that? And Lincoln was like, yeah, I laid down my life, bro. That's what he did. That's what happened. So I know that was, I guess, as we often do with more science, get carried away. But I hope that somebody got something, because I can go on and on, but I really could, and I'm prepared to, and I got a lot. But so let me just say this: myths to dispel. Lincoln was Asiatic. That's number one. He did not free the slaves just to win the war. He was going to do that. He knew he was going to do that when he was a lawyer. Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much that. He always thought slavery was wrong. He said that. He said that. Check out Henry Clay, and you'll get a blessing. Definitely check out John Brown. I read somewhere that he met with Harriet Tubman, Lincoln. The dates, I'm not sure. I don't know, but we'll check it out. He did not own slaves. That was crazy. I was flabbergasted when I first heard that one. But I must admit, I do understand why people think that, and it's simply because Mary Todd Lincoln, his wife, her father, had slaves and left them to her in his will. You can get those documents from the University of Chicago. They got a lot of stuff in Chicago, by the way. A lot of stuff in Chicago. You can get those documents from the University of Chicago. I got it saved, and it just says no. It was in his will. Lincoln sold them, got rid of them, and so when people, I guess, when they see little snippets like that, They'd be like, "Oh, he had slaves." No, he got rid of them. He freed them. Uh, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for right now. He was Asiatic. That he was a friend. That's the point. That's the point I wanted to make. He's a friend. He was a friend. And there are people who think that he was used. Okay, he might have been used. Why did they kill him though? And who killed him? Oh, and thank you, Sheik, for Lions Bay. That was a record that you sent me. Uh, who killed him? Why did they kill him? I mean, they killed the man. I mean, how much more? Come on now, stop it, stop it. Yep. And so what you could do is you can check out the presidential election. Definitely check out the Stephen Douglas, the debates when they were running for senator at that time. I believe he got beat out at that time, but Lincoln said some interesting stuff about Dred Scott pertaining to Stephen Douglas. He said some interesting stuff. Check it out. And that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. He was commissioned by law. Any questions, please ask. And yeah, man. Policy, 13th Amendment, 20 sections, compensated emancipation. Any questions, man? Shoot away. I mean, fire away, as they say. But other than that, I think that pretty much. I hope it was. I hope I was able to help somebody out. And last but not least, all of this goes to demonstrate that as Moorish American Muslims, members of the Moorish Sense Channel of America, descendants of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, our work is going to be done over the course of generations. We got to accept the fact it's going to be done over the course of generations, and it's going to be done in legislative, judicial, and executive arenas, having people in those positions as citizens. But I think we already know that part. Islam.
Islam. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Sheikh T.R. Johnson Bay. Can you all hear me? Praise the Lord. So, Sheikh T.R. Johnson Bay just laid out an extensive um, section of our segment on President Abraham Lincoln, dispelling myths and misconceptions on President Lincoln. He did an excellent job, as he always does. Those who are in the chat or those who are tuning in, is everyone okay? I know it was a lot of information. Some of us are, well, I know those of us that are on this stream, we're familiar with the information, and maybe some of those who are in the chat as well. Can we just get a one if you're still with us? Can you just put one in the chat if you're still with us, if you're tuning in? Likewise, if you have any questions for Sheikh T.R. Johnson Bay in regards to any of the information that he presented, of course, you can reach us at moresensemedia dot, excuse me, .com, www.moresensemedia at gmail.com. And let me see, we got a private chat real quick. I think that's all right. Praise Allah. Yep, that's the Sheikh. I want to go back to a few comments that we had likewise. So Sheikh is TJ Bay, and we all know who that is. Sheikh is TJ Bay said Congress also uses the same numbering system to determine how many representatives a state is assigned, Democrat, Republican. That's absolutely right. Sheikh Kahim Carter Bay says Lawn Wars. And then we got a brother, East 49. He said Abe kept it a buck, kept it honest. Sheik Charles Brownell said praise Allah. He also gave us honors for doing this segment. And then Sheik Haru Renicio said that you did an incredible job. Sheik T.R. Johnson, I will concur with that. And then we got brother Derek Massenberg. He gave us a one. See, he's still with us. We appreciate you tuning in likewise. So, of course, this section right here is on dispelling myths as well as misconceptions. We're going to come back with part two. Next week, we're going to be looking at historical documents and evidence. I know Sheikh Valans Bey has a few documents that he wanted to address and to bring up. Sheikh Valans Bey is going to go through primary and secondary sources, and we're going to look at sources as well as ethical sourcing, because we see some things, or we've seen some things online, and we just want to just help people out. Help people out, kind of give them just a little indicator that you may be off ahead too with some things that you're presenting. Uh, and again, we don't know it all, but again, as the Sheikh T.R. Johnson Bay stated, we are taught from a specific curriculum, which is the Great Book of the Resurrection. The truth be yourself and not somebody else. If you have a copy, praise Allah is definitely a blessing. If you don't have a copy, as he mentioned earlier, you can come to or visit your nearest Moorish Science Temple of America to receive a copy at expense. I'm gonna pass it over to Sheikh Valaz Bey because he's been quiet this evening. I said a lot, and then we can conclude with this segment. Sheikh Valaz Bey, you have the floor, and I'm gonna mute.
Praise the Lord. I'm not gonna tarry long, but um, er- you did a good job with laying out. A lot of people misunderstand just United States history in general, and the reason being is because a lot of people don't think that we had anything to do with it, right? All of our people were not brought here from Africa. Some of us were already here 10,000 years before Columbus got here, right? And the thing about Horace Greeley in the New York Tribune, that was like the organ of news or newspaper, and it was like an organ, just like the Moorish God was and is for us at that particular time for Europeans. It connected them throughout the world, and they started becoming a collective force and started really working together. That's why they were, promoting slavery and things of this nature. In passing, if people check out the word melungeon, they check out the word weasort, they check out the word red bone, and they check out the word um, what's the other one? Uh, it's a French word, Huguenot. Huguenot. You'll find that those words, um, that's like a words that cover up people who were passing at that particular time, right? So, praise Allah. So anyhow, um, all of us are students from the history and law class, right? And the reason being, before before I kind of met Sheikah Seabreeze Bay, like in passing. My history and law teacher, right, initial was Grand Sheik Eugene Martinell, right? And it's so in so many words what you were reading, um Lincoln was speaking in science, so to speak. It was other people who understood what he was saying, and it wasn't for an average person to understand what he was saying. So you did a great job with interpreting. But Eugene Martinell, right? Sheik Grand Sheik Eugene Martinell used to teach. um he used to it would appear that he was like hollering at us, right? But he would make us read certain books and things of this nature. So that picture that you showed earlier with Lincoln wrapping a turban, um, the drawer of that picture is Albert Volok. He drew that picture, or this picture that we're showing now, under the veil. Actually, he came from Brovera, and he came to America. He first went out to California. Then in later years, he came to Baltimore, and he was like good. He was like a sympathizer of the Confederacy, and he drew this picture. And when he drew this picture, he had to go into hiding because um, they people in the Confederacy and various other people disliked him very much for drawing a picture such as this, right? And as a result of that, um, in later years, he was able to at least he was able to come back out, and he was a cartoonist, and he drew various other pictures. So this is the cartoonist who drew that name is Albert Volok, and it would be interesting to study him because he was right here from. I mean, he lived here in Baltimore. Actually, he died in his house on Linden Avenue in 1912. Okay, so that's an interesting, some interesting history about him, right? So, when people see this and they study the Melungeons, you'll find out why um, he has on pantaloons. He's great tie turban, and he has what would appear to be two scimitars. And if you take note of his shoes, okay, so um, that's very interesting. But there's another book as well, right? If you could show that one, this is in the Library of Congress. If Abraham Lincoln, think about it. Use your spiritual eye. He was the 16th president of the United States. Um, those who know about numbers, you can do your thing. Those who don't, you can come and ask us about the numbers. And then his name Abraham, and as you can see here, it says Abraham. I think is that Africanus. Does that say that?
African News. Yeah, African
Okay,
News.
African Noose. His secret life. Okay, you can go to the Library of Congress. It's easy to find, and you can investigate this record and see what it says about him. But this shows, what they thought about Abraham Lincoln, right? So in history and law, um, when Grand Sheik Martinez used to teach us, right? He told us certain books to get and things of this nature. Now, in later years, you will run into people who would say, "Oh, I learned history and law, or I know it, I can teach it." So, could you bring up? I used to belong to this group, right? And we used to share different information. And this particular information, one time it came to me, okay, and when it came to me, I'm looking at this record and I'm like, why is it number one? Why was it crooked? Two, the person who gave this to me, it wasn't Grand Sheik Eugene Martin. It was another individual who is actually a member of the Moorish Science Temple. And I was reading and I'm like, what? I'm like, where did this come from? And then he told me, look at the top. It says Lincoln philosophy, common sense. So me and my curious nature, I started investigating it. And lo and behold, come to find out, I found the record, which is a three-part series, Lincoln's Common Sense. Um, so this individual, when I approached him, I kept asking him because it says in here that it says somewhere in here it says, on the contrary, Judge Curtis, in his dissenting opinion, shows that in 5 of the 13 states, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, free Moors were voters, right? So I'm saying free Moors. So I'm like, I wanted to find this book. So I'm digging, I'm digging. So let me tell you, for 3 years I couldn't find the record, right? But lo and behold, I wound up finding a 3-volume book, right, called Abraham Lincoln's Philosophy of Common Sense. And when I found the book, I went to page 510, which is now on the screen. And as you can see, it doesn't say that, it doesn't have that top portion that it has in the other paper that we just showed. So I went back to the individual and I kept asking him, where did you get this from? And he kept telling me, oh, I got it. I got it from the book. So I asked him like 4 times where did he get it from. So finally he never told me. So I said, I'll tell you what, this copy of this paper is not right. I said, because I have the book. And in the book, I told him that it talks about the dissenting opinion of Justice Curtis, but it doesn't say anything about free Moors. It says free Negroes. So please, before you start sharing sources, um, or trying to teach history and law, I think you should come to those who know a little bit more about history and law than you do, because what happens is that document, and if you could pull it back up, Sheikh Jornel, if we were in a college course, this document would be considered as plagiarism or altering information, and it makes you look unethical. Um, so it's important that we do thorough research in order to find out where the information comes from. Now, the top portion of this page does not come from. So all the way from the top where it says the Union is much older than the Constitution, which is true, but this comes from another book that the individual, he used to work in a print shop. He lifted the top portion of it and added it with after it says Lincoln's first inaugural March the 4th, 1861. He
That's right.
lifted that part from another record called I think it's Abraham Lincoln's um excuse me, losing me. Abraham Lincoln's like it's a body of work of Abraham Lincoln. He took it from that record and put it with the bottom part about Lincoln's challenging Justice Taney historical facts, and he made it seem like it all of it came from Lincoln's philosophy, common sense, and it didn't. Only the bottom portion came from it. So there are people who are going around utilizing this. In the group that I used to belong to, actually, it was Ali's men, and they at one time they used to frown upon Abraham Lincoln
Mhm.
and things of this nature,
That's
and
right.
then all of a sudden now you start to see this document kind of like floating around. But I just wanted to put it out there that this is somebody tampered with the actual book. So it doesn't say free Moors, and if we were in college and things of this nature, and we try to pass this off as a authentic document, we would be expelled. Okay, so just wanted to kind of like share that with the people. And when you start seeing information from, just do your due diligence with investigating it before you actually just kind of put it all the way out there, because there are those who know about the history of the United States, the history of Lincoln, and you get to drawing from papers such as this, we become laughing stocks because people know, right? And easy, even though it took me 3 years to find the 3 volume record, it's some people probably could find it easier than I did, right? So it's really important to um, get, get our information right, and before you start teaching or trying to teach about history and law. She Tr, how long have you been in the temple?
13, 14 years.
Praise Allah.
14 years,
She
sir.
she joined in. How long you been in?
11 years.
11 years.
15 years, but I've been a member 14 years.
Praise Allah. So, as you know, it says, as man unfolds, his God unfolds, and what man is God today, tomorrow is not as God. So, I mean, I've shared things with you both and different things also at the same time. And I wouldn't consider myself to be your teacher. However, I do consider you all to be my peers. But as you can see, I learned from Grand Sheik Eugene Martinell, and also I learned some things from Sheikah Seabreeze Bay, where I think she does a excellent job with teaching, history and law as well. But I got it like from two perspectives, and when I see certain things, I'm like, oh, let me check into that, right? So I just wanted to share that because this document is floating around and people are trying to utilize it like it's it's the gospel truth. Yes, we do translate. When we see the word Negro, when we see the word Indian, we know and understand that they changed those words. They took more out and changed it to Indian, but we don't take another author's work and we don't change his words. We just translate it, if that makes sense. So please, when you do your investigation, if you're having trouble with investigating something, or when it comes down to teaching history and law, please reach out to one of us or an elder who really have done their due diligence with being able to share like some of the documents that we've been able to share, right? Um, so that's just my little portion of history and law is deeper than what people can imagine. There are at least 40, probably 40 different books that we probably would need in our rock pile in order, and maps as well. And once again, this is not something that everybody would be interested in, right? But or saying that we're not trying to force people, well, you got to learn it. But if you want to understand history and law, or if you want to understand Lincoln, that's where it's done, and understanding it because it goes all the way. Actually, it goes all the way back to really 1790, and really before then as well. But 1790 is an important year, and the reason being because that was the first census of the United States. Also, you'll find out about the Moorish Sundry Act of 1790, South Carolina, and then also not only that's the first year of the naturalization act. So three major things happened in that year, and all of them were connected, right? Um, so we'll go into it because we did a lot of heavy lifting tonight, and I don't want to oversaturate the people with. I just want to be able to help people get a clear understanding of what it is that we're doing and where we're going. And documents such as what you see on the screen, we have to be very careful when we present stuff like this.
That's right.
You got to know the history of it. And believe you me, the and it was an elder, and him and I got into it about this document, and respectfully, but I'm like, nah, So he good brother, and I'm not gonna mention his name or nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I happen to know the history of the document because it was presented to me, and once it was presented to me, I did my due diligence with, like I said, it took me 3 years, and I found the 3 volume book, and then praise Allah, I went back to the elder, and he told me that he used to work at a print shop,
Hmm.
and he was the one who changed the word from Negro to Moor, and he also added that top portion to make it seem as if, well, it was an internal document. It wasn't a document that was circulating outside of the temple, but you know how we get papers, and people try to say, oh, this letter is this and that, and they
And they
try to
try to.
Right.
interpret. And unfortunately, you might think you have something and you really don't.
Right.
So,
That's,
I mean, and it's a good, a good I don't even know what I could call it, but
I can get
it,
into it.
yeah, yeah, go ahead. She joined in.
All right. So we're talking about history, and we're not going to keep it long. We said it was going to be a pretty extensive show. So when you're dealing with history, in the document that I'm drawing from two documents. Of course, the Great Book of the Resurrection is going to come down the pipeline. This document right here is one that I received at Morgan State University. It's called The Historian's Toolbox. And it's a student's guide to theory and the craft of history, right? I'm going to read what history is, and then I want to get into what anti history is, because I think that's what you're hitting on, Sheik Valans Bay, right?
That's right.
So when you look at history, let me make this a little larger. Okay. So when you're focusing on history, it says historical research is a process of discovery and construction. The historian investigates what happened in the past by researching available evidence in order to establish facts and the chronology of events. This evidence may include written records, archives, manuscripts, maps, and documents, but also unwritten evidence, photographs, paintings, coins, records, tapes, videos, computers, hard drives, so on and so forth. The garbage of the past is everywhere, but from the very beginning, the historian must select and distinguish what is important and significant and what is unimportant and inferior. We discover evidence, but we construct a history. And then I'm gonna read this last part, and I'm gonna go to the next page. It says, "History aspires to construct and tell true stories about the discovered evidence of the past." Now, let's get into anti-history. All right, give me 1 second. Yep, this is actually the page I want to draw from. So, anti-history, just going to give everybody just a snapshot of what anti-history is. So, ultimately, when you're dealing with anti-history is unhistorical and it's also super historical, meaning that people have the tendency to fabricate certain stories,
Hmm.
as you mentioned earlier, create certain things, doctor, alter, change to suit their specific narrative or need. And what you notice, for those who are tuning in, Sheik T.R. Johnson Bay, he did an excellent job earlier laying it out. Often, when we converse with other Moorish Americans or just individuals, brothers and sisters, etc., we get a lot of contention because we give honor to Abraham Lincoln. We don't put Abraham Lincoln in the same vein as the prophet. However, we do give honor to President Abraham Lincoln. And because of that, people say that we fabricate certain things of that nature. But as the Sheik mentioned earlier, a check doesn't lie. So, anti history. It says on this page, it says anti history. The most notorious example of anti history is historical denial. Historical denial asserts that a well known event never really happened or that a well known person never existed. In accordance to relativism, those who deny history assert that all views of history are equally valid, just a bit different. They claim that their denial is just as valid as any historical account. For example, and this is an example they give, it says the Holocaust was a series of events and actions that killed 6 million Jews and other individuals during World War II. All right. Now, it says take your pick on revisionist history because some people deny certain things. It says people usually deny that past events happened for political reasons. They ignore the normal rules of science, logic, and reason. They distort or take out of context selected facts to suit their opinion or argument. They ignore all evidence that contradicts their claim. They exaggerate claims based on one piece of evidence and not many. They substitute bias for open mindedness toward the past. They cite, and here it is, here's the hit. They cite discredited sources that agree upon with their point of view. Historical denial is not historical revision. It is acceptable, a perfectly acceptable way of rethinking the past. Denial of history is known as pseudo history. So people, for whatever reason, they like to, conjure up these specific things. And it says a single fact neither proves or disproves a historical argument. History is grounded in multiple facts and sources, streams of evidence pointing to a single conclusion. Denying one fact proves nothing. That's what history is. That's what anti-history is. So what we're laying out right now is we're teaching people how to go through specific documents. We laid out primary source documents. We're going to get into some secondary source documents, and then we also get into a primary source document that actually a secondary source document that contains a primary source document. So let's get into it. So Sheik mentioned earlier about the Great Book of the Resurrection, because you may say, well, why are we so focused on President Abraham Lincoln? You have the Supreme Grand Resurrection, Grand Sheik Timothy Golden Dingle Lill, and he makes reference to us on page 5 of the Resurrection book about our effort as Moorish Americans. He spells out explicitly what our effort is. And for those who are unfamiliar with the effort, I'm going to pull it up. Give me 1 second, please. Let's see. Should be, unless I took it down. If I took it down, then praise Allah, I'll just read it. Nope, that ain't it. I'll read it. So for the Great Book of the Resurrection, I think I took it down. It says, it is our effort for all people who are clinging to names that delude to slaveryism, such as Negro, Black, Colored, and Ethiopians, to be nationalized accordingly to the American Constitution, that one that was forced in 1865 by President Abraham Lincoln. It is also our effort for the people, when nationalized, to obtain what Mr. Lincoln put in his will, founded in his proclamation of September 22nd, 1862. We realize the nationalization cannot be processed until the slaveholder is compensated for his property, in parentheses, called slaves before 1865. A copy of that letter was sent to all senators who were claiming names that delude to slavery, January 29th, 1971. And then he also goes on to say, we will use any method necessary and proper under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice to bring about the materialization of our efforts. We will call on all true American citizens, spiritually, domestically, and financially, etc., to aid and assist our efforts because the Negro problems are being solved only as it can. So, with that being said, if anyone wants to know what our efforts are, these are our efforts. That's the requisite. This is the requirement, and it parallels off with what the Prophet Noble Ali gives us in Act 6 of our divine constitution and bylaws likewise. So, I just wanted to put that point out and add that in too. So, we went over sourcing, we went over history, anti history, as well as dispelling the myths and misconceptions of President Abraham Lincoln. And Shiva Linesby, you did a great job likewise showing the differences between those two documents. And, prayerfully it be the will of Allah before individuals attempt to put things out there, they'll cite their sources or just do a little bit more of deep digging and investigating beforehand. Praise
Yeah,
Allah.
because we 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 if how some of the elders say, if a Mo don't know, don't nobody know, right? So um, it's important for us to just do our due diligence, and like this is also the importance of operational unity. We're not trying to take anybody away from who their primary teachers are. But if you see something and you don't know, please reach out. We're not boogeymen, or we're not gonna bite your head off or whatever. Um, we like the fact that people watch our show and then go behind us and go and do their own show if that's what happens. I could my mind could be jumping time,
Right.
but we don't mind that. However, ask us about what we're teaching. So that we can share what it is that we have, and then maybe you could share what it is that you have. So that's just the type of time we on, and we're about operational unity. Actually, we have some great initiatives coming up, which we're not really at liberty to go all into detail with them at this point in time. But we hope that other Moorish Americans will join in with us, because it's just that time. All the old ancient hatreds that may exist, or old ancient misteaching of things. Um, yeah, that time is really declared out, right? And all those who are members of the Nation of Islam, as opposed to, we have more in common than we don't have in common. Of course, we disagree about some things. I mean, but what's wrong with us working together? All those who may be Orthodox Muslims, um, according to the Charter of Privileges founded by Prophet Muhammad, we as Moorish American Muslims, we are part of the Ummah. So don't treat us like stepchildren. You know what I mean? Because we got some history on how that came about, and actually it was a little before what most people think. So, praise Allah, man. I'm blessed to be. Even though I'm the senior, right, out of YouTube, but it's a blessing to be here with y'all. We are family people. We give honor to our wives and our sister women for and our children for
That's right.
allowing and giving us the opportunity to be on here at this time, and taking time away from them and stuff like that. That is a blessing.
Thank you, Mo.
So yeah, Mo, no problem.
Islam. That's
Yeah, praise Allah.
praise
So
Allah.
with that, Mo, that's all I gotta say. We not about disunity. We about unity, and like I said, we not trying to take you away from your meeting or nothing like that. But yeah, let's work together. How about that? And for all those who see people who are not trying to work together, now they the ones that you can call agents, and all they the ones that people should be calling that. And stop using threatening language and all. Man, we not on that kind of time. Yeah. So praise Allah. Islam.
Praise a lot. So, as we often state, we're going to just go through a few announcements. Um, of course, tomorrow is Friday, the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. If you are in the Baltimore metropolitan area, we welcome you out to Temple number 13, located at 1055 North Milton Avenue. Our meeting hours are 8 to 10 on Fridays, 12 to 2 on Sundays. You also have our sister temple on the west side, which is Temple 13 2, led by Grand Sheik Eric Thompson Bay. Same hours, 8 to 10, 12 to 2. 8 to 10 being Holy Day meeting, 12 to 2 being more Sunday school. Likewise, we also have our sister temple 13-1, which is on Bel Air Road. We also have other respective temples as well. We have temple number 27, Grand Sheik Brownell. We have temple 11-1 with Sheik Lewis Hill. We also have our temples in New York. Sheik Johnson, I know you're familiar with the address up there. Would you like to just give the address and maybe the meeting hours? I'm glad we have you on tonight.
Praise the Lord. I know where it's at. Hold on. I gotta defer. I gotta defer. I'm gonna have to defer to Jasmine. She can solid here for the address. It's on Fifth Avenue. Please hold. I might have it in my phone. Oh wow, it's not on Fifth Avenue. Slime Wars. It's 39 Hill Street.
Praise a lot.
What's on Fifth Avenue? I don't know. No. Praise the Lord. 39 Hill Street. That's Albany, New York.
Praise a lot. You also have the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. You can pause. You can mute the Moors. She Johnson, I think Mike is still. We also have the Moorish Holy Temple of Science in Richmond, Virginia, under the leadership of Brother Eric Mungenbay, teacher Eric Mungenbay. So if you're in the Richmond area, check out the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as well. You also have Temple number 39, which is in Raleigh, North Carolina, led by the Grand Sheikh Hope Mayat Il likewise. So check them out likewise. Um,
I think that's 1401 Diggs Drive,
yes, 14
PC.
Drive. Thank you, Sheik. And with that being said, I
Don't
don't think
forget
I have any. Who else?
Grand Sheik Lomax Bay.
That's right. We did mention it. You have the address for Grand Sheik Lomax,
Temple
Um,
on.
the temple.
Bel Air Road. I don't have the exact address. We gotta get our
I gotta
addresses
write it
together.
down. Yeah, I gotta write it down. Sheik's
Praise
Lomax, we
Allah.
always puts it in the chat for us. But we'll have everything written down by the next time we meet, so we can just run it off. We used to have a paper, but we're not going to hold you unduly, as Sheikh Valaz Bay often states. We're going to conclude our meeting or our segment this evening, and we'll pick up with our second part. We do have another esteemed author coming on for the author series, so be on the lookout for that. We actually have two coming on to the channel. We also are going to have Brother Emmanuel back on, I believe, on Tuesday to do his part two segment likewise. And then we're going to circle back and do another segment on this one too. And we're going to focus on sourcing. And Sheikh Johnson, if you would like to come on as well, this is your home likewise. So with that being said, we're going to conclude. And Sheikh Johnson, would you mind leading us off with the Moorish American prayer?
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Islam. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen.
Islam. Oh, Islam.
Hold on.
Sheik is Lomax Bey.